What's up, guys? Your boy, Trent2K13. I'm going to talk about David Blatt left looking for answers as Cavs hope to rebound in Game 2 versus the Bulls. All Monday night, it seemed as if LeBron James, his coach, and his teammates were just throwing stuff at walls, hoping that something stuck, only to see everything eventually slide sadly down to the floor. Now from back near the baseline where he was trying to keep offensive rebounding, especially Ty Gibson, at bay while Kyrie Irving was getting beat off the bounce and Tristan Thompson was scrambling back to help and Amon Shumpert was falling to rotate from the backside. James watched Paul Gasol sink his 8 jumper without a Cavaliers in sight of the Bulls' sweet shooting power forward. So after the ball ripped through the net and bounced up into his hand, James fired it angrily in the stanchion. That didn't stick either. Between now and Wednesday, when the Cavaliers will play Game 2, he and his teammates, and especially David Blatt, better find something that does. And I quote, "I wasn't that good tonight," James said later, after 19 points, 15 rebounds, 9 assists, and six turnovers, 3 of which had him scolding himself, especially for breaking the golden rules against the jump pass. No, he wasn't that good. Not for him, especially not after his putback cut the Bulls' lead to 2 with 6 minutes and 18 seconds remaining. He was over. He was 0 of 3 with 2 turnovers as Chicago pulled away, and Irving, who needed to be at minimum the second best player in this series, wasn't good enough either. While some of Irving's 30 points were spectacular, he repeatedly let roll buzz by him on the other end. Cleveland plans, however, was worse than anyone played, and for all of Black's commendable work this season, whether it was weathering the Squinty storm or incorporating 3 new components or tapering his stars minute, he now found himself in a pickle jar. That jar has pickle aplenty, sour pickles. Start with whom to start. Since the Mike Miller small ball experiment, while nostalgic and born of decent intention, creating some spacing in Kevin Love's absence was something short of the smashing success that it was for the Miami Heat against the San Antonio Spurs in the 2013 NBA Finals. Miller was a minus 20 in his 16 minutes Monday, and by the time he checked out after his first stint, his primary assignment, Mike Dunleavy had scored 11 points as the Cavaliers trailed 21-7. James Jones, Miller's longtime teammate and close friend, had expected Miller to perform well after little usage during the season. And I quote, "I've seen this movie before," Jones said. Yet while Miller had been a key contributor in previous postseason after extended stays in cold storage, he never found any rhythm this season, shooting 32.5% in 52 appearances, going largely ignored by Black for weeks after coach tightened his rotation and used Jones in the role of filling-in floor spacer. It was unreasonable to expect Miller to find it now, especially after he didn't play a minute in the Boston series, which meant he hadn't played in exactly 3 weeks. And prior to playing 77 minutes in the Cavaliers' meaningless last 4 games of the regular season, he had played a total of 15 minutes between March 4th and April 9th. The lineup Black started Monday with Miller as small forward. That lineup hadn't played a minute together all season. Asked about another lineup change, Black said late Monday night that he was thinking about everything. "I think that's for us not to have our normal rotation and normal roster. We have to adjust to things and we have to try to be creative." He certainly was. He went with more conventional lineup and assignment the first time he started the Bulls back in the preseason in Columbus than he did in the first game of the postseason second round. Some of that was circumstance for sure, and while Black started his press conference by announcing there would be no excuses, He also made no secret of the challenges he encountered without love for the remainder of the postseason, and the suspended J.R. Smith for the first two games. Such, such circumstances aside, something Bulls coach Tom Thibodeau said Monday rang true. Kevin Love gives them the size, the rebounding, the shot, but their roster is built so that they can manage if a guy is hurt or if they are out. Any team that has LeBron and Kyrie, they're not short-handed. But the way Blatt deployed James in particular may have been short-sighted. He put James on the offensively limited Joakim Noah, likely to preserve James for all his other duties. Noah didn't score all night, but that could have been the case had someone else checked him early. Consider how sluggish and sloppy Noah seemed throughout. Meanwhile, Dunleavy got off against Miller, and while Shumpert did decent early work on Jimmy Butler, James took some time to engage overall. That has sometimes been an issue. We had to work from the start on defense, and this time he was coming off an 8-day layoff. By the end of the night, James had switched all over the place. He recalled defending everyone but Aaron Brooks, but Cleveland may be better served if he isn't cross-minded. So often, going from big to small, Cunningham to big, occasionally Gasol. It might be better if he just guards the guys, Butler, who almost always guard him, unless roles require his attention. It might be better too if Black can find three complementary pieces on offense. Again, here's the criticism come with a caveat. When Eric Spoelstra lost Chris Bosh during the 2012 postseason, everything around James and Dwayne Wade was a mushy mess for a while. It took some time for Spoelstra to settle on a workable rotation over the course of a highly contested series against Indiana and then against Boston, one that would allow the two stars to get close to their best and overcome Bosh's absence. It's not clear that for all Black tinkering Monday from his time when lineup with Timothy Malgall and Thompson up front to his tiny one with Thompson at center, James at power forward and Irving, Shumpert and Matthew Dellavedova in the backcourt that he found anything approaching a suitable answer for this series. The latter worked for a while, but eventually tired as Shumpert played the entire second half. Thompson played the final 20 minutes 22 seconds. Dellavedova the final 15 minutes and 50 seconds, and Irving the final 14 minutes and 42 seconds. This was a Black bugaboo at times during the regular season, such as when rookie Joe Harris played the final 19 minutes and 28 seconds against the Spurs. Smith returning in Game 3 should help there, at least in terms of saving Shumpert, but the Cavaliers can't wait that long to correct their most critical problem, the Rose Gasol pick and pop. In Game 1, the distance between the closest Cavalier defender and Gasol wasn't within Jordan's speed putting range. Gasol made 8 of his 9 uncontested shots. According to Sports VU, while he was 2 of 7 when contested, the idea that he would be that open over and over is unstoppable, even if due entirely to poor defensive execution. It's even more unfavorable that it would be by design, and yet that was some players suggested afterward, that it was at least partly intentional. And I quote, "We think we can do a better job than letting Paul have that much space," Shumpert said. "We tested him and he showed us he could knock that down." James said something along the line, and I quote, "Obviously they were exploiting us with our coverage," James said. "That was the coverage we was in. They exploited us. We get better with it. We come in Tuesday, we watch film, we see ways we could take that away, or you can make it a little bit more challenging. Obviously Paul is a great mid-range shooter that we found out tonight. He made us pay. So we have to go look back to the drawing board and see what that we can do, see ways that we can be better with that particular play when Paul is popping to the elbow and making those shots. All the Cavaliers needed to do was pop over to the NBA stat site and they could have seen the folly of Darwin Gasol from mid-range. This season, he shot 46.8% from 15 to 19 feet, comparable to others high-value threats, big like Bosh 46.7, LaMarcus Aldridge 46.6, David West 48.9, and Al Horford 50.2. You don't test him without taking you don't test him without taking some lumps. As Rose said, a free throw every jumper for Gasol is like a layup. It's an easy play, Rose said, especially with no one around. What happened? We did adjust to that, but just a little late, Blatt said. A little late. It's not too late in the series. Not with another home game upcoming, not with James and Irving on his side. Not with James' history of losing game one to the Bulls and sweeping from there. Even so, it will be soon. If Black can find something that sticks. Well, guys, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys next one. Peace.